Hello, dear ones. I am Eleonora from the channel The Awakening Path. And today is like one of the best days of my life.
Oh,
Since I started this YouTube channel, I dream of the day that I will have with me one of the person that must influence my spiritual journey, my awakening path. And there is three big people. One is Louise Spalding, that introduced to me A Course in Miracles, along with Jesus and Ananda's teaching. And another one is Dolores Cannon, and then Abraham Hicks.
wow.
So
That's auspicious company.
yes, please welcome Louise Spalding. Tina, is really a pleasure to have you here with me today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I love talking about the course. It's my favorite thing to do. It's my life's work, obviously, and as it has become your life's work as well to share these teachings. So thank you for inviting me. I'm really happy to be here.
Before we started, I'd like to tell you, share with everyone how I met Tina. I'm from Brazil, and over there, sorry, automatic writing and channeling is something very, very common. Everybody knows about. Some people try to ignore and stay away from it, but everybody knows about.
Oh, okay.
And when I came to US, I started seeing, I knew that people, entities, can talk through people through trance channel. And I was listening to somebody's channeling Mother Teresa, Saint Germain, Einstein, and then a thought came to my mind. Why Jesus didn't come through anyone to tell us about his true teaching? When you have a question, of course, your guides are happy to give you the answer. Not maybe an hour later, somebody pop up in my YouTube channel, my YouTube. I'm channeling Jesus. I listened to her. I didn't resonate much, but then I started seeing a lot of people from nowhere. And before I
The
never
algorithm.
until I saw you. And when I saw you, I confess that I became obsessed because I so resonate with the message of Jesus coming through you that I watch all your videos in YouTube until there was none. So that's when I
It's quite a
joined.
lot. I think there's like 700 or something. There's a lot of videos free on YouTube.
Well, I spent like a year,
Yeah.
but that year was just listening to you every day. So enough about me. Now, tell us a little bit how everything started. Tell us about your spiritual evolution, this beautiful adventure.
Well, it's a long and convoluted and ever-evolving story. You know, A Course in Miracles came to me probably at one of the worst times of my life. I had my second marriage had come to an end. My sons were living with their dad. I was riddled with guilt about being a bad mother, but that's what my sons wanted, and that's what was best for all of us at that time. But as you can imagine, if you've got kids, you're not happy about the other parent having them full time. They would come and see me on holidays and long weekends, but I was traveling up to see them over the Christmas holidays, and I was traveling with my sister, or originally she was gonna stay in Vancouver, but she and I had a huge argument with my mum about some of the decisions that my mum had made, and we had this huge fight. And it was a Canadian winter. I had to drive over it's called the Coquihalla Highway. It's the highway to hell, really. It's frozen and cold, and I asked my sister to come with me. I said, I can't do this by myself. And so she decided to come with me, and we had to follow a snowplow up the mountain. And anyway, at the top of the mountain, 5 hours after this horrific journey, we went into a Chapters type bookstore, Barnes and Noble type bookstore. And she got back in the car and said, I don't know why I bought this. You should read it. And it was A Course in Miracles. And I had no idea. I'd never heard of the Course in Miracles. I didn't know what it was. So I took it, and I was visiting for Christmas, one of my least favorite times of the year. And I started to read the course, and immediately I didn't understand a word of it. And immediately, in the first day or so, I actually would feel physical feelings inside my head, like something was moving. I had an amazing dream the first night that was very unusual, and I couldn't stop reading it, even though I couldn't understand what it was saying, and I didn't know what it was. So about 3 weeks into this process, I had 2 out-of-body experiences I'd never had this experience before. So I was laying on my bed one day, and I was doing my Course in Miracles lesson. I'd started the lessons, and I had finished my lesson, and I was laying there, and I was saying, I love you and I trust you. And I was speaking to spirit. I just kept saying, I love you and I trust you. And whoosh, I was out of my body. My eyes were closed, but I could feel myself, my consciousness hurtling up through the clouds. And I ended up in a spiral galaxy. This spiral galaxy was going round and round me, and it was full of information, like symbols and numbers and letters and shapes. And I knew that this was the universe. This was the information of the universe. And then appeared a stairway, and at the top of the stairway was a door with a silhouetted figure. And the figure said to me, tell Dave he's overwhelmed and confused. And then I was back in my body. So I was like, what the heck is going on? So that day I saw this person who was an acquaintance. He turned out to be forgiveness practice many years later. But at that time, he was just someone I knew. And I said, I had a dream. I didn't say I had an out-of-body experience. I said, I had a dream that you were overwhelmed and confused. And he said, yeah, oh yeah, I'm really overwhelmed and confused. And I thought, okay, well, and then the next day, and this doesn't normally happen when you have an exceptional experience like that. Most people try and make it happen again, and it never happens again. But in this case, it did happen again. I did the same thing, did my lesson, laid on my back, praying, saying, I love you and I trust you to spirit. And the same thing happened again. I was whooshed out of my body into a spiral galaxy. There was no image, there was no figure with a message that time. And then I came back into my body. I remember standing up on the bed, jumping up and down. I was so excited. And I thought, it must be this book I'm reading, because I hadn't been able to stop reading it. So that was the beginning of A Course in Miracles. And I started to experience periods of peace, which I had never experienced in my mind before. Half an hour or 15 minutes or an hour where I had no thoughts, where I would be completely at peace. And I had had a very tumultuous life, a very dramatic life, and never had any peace. I attempted suicide when I was 17, so I had a tough start even when I was young. And I thought, what is this quiet thing that's happening in my mind? It must be this book. I kept thinking, it must be this book I'm reading. Now, this was in 2002. I didn't have a television, I didn't have a computer, and I didn't have a phone. So I had no way of researching the book, finding out what it was or anything like that. So I just had this very unique kind of virginal experience with the book, where it was just me and the book and the practice. So I think that was a real gift, because it's so busy now. There are so many things, the videos, the communities, all of those things. But way back then, I was living on a remote island with just me and my course. And so that's how it started.
That's beautiful.
Do you want me to carry on till I started the channeling or?
Oh, that would be my next question. But
Okay.
before we do that, I just wanted to, I think many people already realize that Tina is just like you and me.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I start all the podcasts with the same question, how was your spiritual evolution? Is because you that's just watching, you're gonna realize that you are in a path right now that many of us already was there. And
Mm-hmm.
everything that we accomplished so far, all that connection with galactics, with spirits, with the higher self, it's available for each one, each human being in this planet.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that we accomplish, you also can do. But now let's go to the people
I
like
would
to
just want to
do.
say too that really I have accomplished nothing. Anything that's happening to me is because the course taught me. I wasn't taught any of this stuff. I didn't know any of this stuff. I mean, I'd read lots of spiritual books, but none of them had a practice to train you into shifting your frequency. It was always more just like read the book and then read the next book, right? Um, I've done none of this. This is all Jesus through A Course in Miracles.
But what you did the most important part.
I was willing.
You open yourself
Yeah.
to the book and
Hmm.
to the teachers that the book was offering. And the beautiful thing that you had no television, no phone, nothing. Right now, they are bombarded through so many electronics. It's very hard for us to shut down everything to listen from the inside out.
Hmm.
And because you didn't have any of that, the answers could only come from within.
Hmm.
So that was really a beautiful setup, and that's what many people are struggling right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we won't die if we turn our phones off. We feel like we will because they are highly addictive. And for me, one of the two of the things that really help me are I'm a very creative person, so I'm always creating. Right now, it's pottery and painting and collage, and I'm a gardener. And Jesus is very clear these days that you need to turn off your phone and not take it out in the garden with you, not take it on your walk with you. You know, they've been very clever with the phones to put cameras on them, so people won't even go for a walk. They're like, oh, I might want to take a photograph. Don't take your phone with you. Just go and walk and pray, walk and look at the environment. Just start having an hour here or there without your phone. It makes a huge difference.
It does. So how we started? How we start your channeling?
The channeling. Well, uh, from that beginning story that I just told you until channeling was 12 years. So I was a very dedicated student of A Course in Miracles. I did the lessons only once in that first year, but I read the text 25 times in 12 years. So I continually read the book. I always had it with me. I never went anywhere without it. And the the experiences I had during that 12 years were exceptional. So, for example, the periods of peace that I started to have, those kind of improved, and I had a really difficult year about year six of A Course in Miracles, and I went chasing after some guy in my life. Bad decision. But my ego really, really took over at that point, even though I was now year six into the course. And this is the thing, if you've been doing the course for a long time, you know, it's a slow dissolution of the ego that happens. In the beginning, you have no idea that you're so controlled by this aspect of your consciousness. But as you do the lessons, as you practice, you start to realize, oh, I have some really hateful thoughts in my mind. I do crazy things sometimes. Anyway, I went off charging to another city and Mexico with this guy. It turned into a disaster. I came back to the island I lived on, and I was living with three other women, and they were all crazy, all three of them. One was obese and just ate meat all the time. One lady was channeling extraterrestrials and chanting all the time. And the other lady was depressed and laying on the couch all the time. And then there was me. And I remember walking to town. I had no money, no car, nothing. And this is like 6 years into the course. And I remember thinking, there's not three crazy ladies in the house. There's four, Tina. You're a match for these people. And anyway, I had a dark night of the soul while I lived in that house. And I was crying and praying all evening. I was praying to have my mind healed. I was praying to have my life healed. You know, I've been doing the course for 6 years, so I was a good student, but my life had become very chaotic. And I was essentially homeless with no money. And I got myself really worked up into this state of upset. And I was laying on my bed. I was crying. My eyes were closed. And I was lifted. My consciousness again was lifted out of my body. I feel like I was lifted up 2 or 3 feet out of my body. And I say I was held in the arms of God. I was having that experience of oneness that you hear people have when they have a near-death experience, surrounded by love, completely forgiven, knowing that everything is okay, just completely embraced in this all-knowing, absolutely unconditional love. And I was held there for some time. I'm guessing it felt like 45 minutes, something like that. But after my 3 or 4 hours of crying, I was exhausted, and I said, "You have to put me down now. I'm really tired." And I was laid back down in my body. Now, that is what I consider a revelatory experience that the Course talks about, where you have union with God. That's what it felt like. And the next morning, I woke up and I said to Jesus, "I will accept anything you bring me." Because I had been shown this unity, this being held in the arms of God, that's how I say it. My ego really was turned down. I just said, "I will accept anything you bring me with gratitude, because I don't know what I'm doing." I just had this year of chaos, had this night of intense sadness, and then this amazing, amazing experience. And I went to the coffee shop that day. I had $5. I bought a cup of coffee. That's all I had. And this girl I knew came in and said, "We need someone at work. Can you sew?" And I said, "Yeah, I can sew." She said, "Well, come, we've got a day's work." And I was like, okay, I told Jesus I'd do whatever came my way. So I did. I ended up working there for 3 years. So that was my first real experience of the real world, let's call it, as the Course refers to it. But throughout the following years, I would get this feeling when I would say that was when the Holy Spirit was working with me. It was sort of like a full body tingle. It would happen sometimes when I was waking up or going to sleep. I just started to look at the world very, very differently. And I started to teach people the Course, but not the Course. I would always have the Course with me, and it started to be that people would kind of come to me to talk about their problems. And I would consider myself like a Course in Miracles translator, if you will. I didn't use words like the atonement or Jesus or God or anything like that. I would just kind of help people by using ordinary language, but using the principles of A Course in Miracles. And then around year 10, now I'm reading the Course every day. I would dedicate Sundays completely to studying the Course. I wouldn't do anything else. I would say, this is my church. Sunday, I would just have a quiet day, just reading and praying. So I was very, very dedicated. Around year 10, I started to think, oh, I need to teach this. I need to teach, like, this Course has changed my life. people don't know that they don't need to suffer, because my suffering was going down and down and down, and my relationship with my children was improving. I had read a book called Awakening a Child from Within, which is how to raise a child based on A Course in Miracles teachings. And that had completely changed my relationship with my children, who were young boys at the time. And but then I got this no. I think I should teach this. Then I'd get the feeling of no, and I'd be like, well, that's kind of weird because I do want to teach it. And then about 6 months before I started channeling, I had a big upset with my sister, had a big fight with my sister, and I had another dark night of the soul. I had another night where I was praying and crying. And I was shown a vision, and this was the first time I was shown this vision, and I heard a voice. And the vision was of an English village, and over the village was a cobweb, and it was touching all the buildings. And the voice said to me, these hateful beliefs you have about yourself are contaminating your whole life, just like this cobweb is touching every building in the village. You need to stop thinking these thoughts. So the thoughts were that I'm ugly and that I'm unlovable. These were like my core hateful beliefs that the ego would use with me. And the next morning, again, I woke up in a deep state of peace, and I decided that I would move to Victoria. I was commuting to going to school, and it was very long. I had to get up ridiculously early, and I was like, I'm moving. I was like, I can't live with my sister on this island. I'm moving. So I moved, and there was a whole bunch of synchronicities. But during that 6 months before the channeling started, I prayed 100 times a day. I'm not exaggerating here. 100 times a day to have my resentment with my sister removed from my mind. I knew, because I was a course student, I knew it was my resentment. I knew that it was the ego using it to perpetuate separation and suffering. And so whenever it would come up in my mind, I would pray for it to be changed. I would hand it over to the Holy Spirit. And I did that for several months. And so it became my obsession, if you will, to reach a state of peace. It would have been no different if I'd been in an ashram or some kind of nunnery. I was praying. I was walking to school praying. I was all the time praying to have my mind at peace. And I believe that it was that intense focus in those last few months, my absolute dedication to a peaceful mind and forgiveness, because I knew it was my mind. I wasn't blaming her. I knew it was my mind, praying for my mind to be healed. And towards the end of that time, I added another prayer, which was, please make me a perfect communication device for God. I heard that phrase somewhere. I can't tell you where I heard it. Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I know. It was in the course. It talks about the body being a communication device. So I started to say that prayer, please make me a perfect communication device for God. And I think it's a combination of the 12 years, the intense practice, the focused prayer, all of those things. I was completely surrendered to the course coming through me, if you want to look at it that way. And so one day, most people say all hell broke loose, but all heaven broke loose. And I had a Kundalini awakening, and that was a month of being in ecstasy. And that's a bit of a story too, so we can take a little break here if you have any questions or...
Wow, I just want to tell you, well done. Because it takes a lot of determination and courage and really decision. Say, I want to feel better. I already know that I can, that depend on my thoughts, and there is no one with a norm in my head to say you have to think this or that. And really take accountability and remove from the victimhood. Mm-hmm. I think the victimhood is the main enemy of any mind, because you handle your power over something else that
Well,
doesn't
this is,
that
yeah,
matter.
this is where the course text is really interesting because it talks about the foundation and how all of this experience comes about. And I think sometimes people will only do the lessons, which are extremely valuable and you need to do them. But understanding the foundation of separation, like we've come into separation and we've been taught God created this world. God's responsible for all the good things. The devil's responsible for all the bad things. And there's no logic to it. Because if the devil's responsible for all the bad things, then the devil is equally as powerful as God. If God creates a happy little baby and the baby dies of leukemia, then the devil and death is as powerful as God. It's not logical. So it's understanding the absolute logic of the teaching through reading the text. And it is a slog and it's very difficult. But each time I will say to people, reading the course is sort of like reading Russian. If you haven't taken any Russian lessons, you don't know what it's saying. But as you study the lessons and you read the text, you'll start to understand a sentence here, a sentence there, just like you would if you were learning a new language. And I think because of the frequency of the course, it's a very high frequency book. Most of us come to it at the wrong frequency. We're suffering. That's why we are willing to do it. We're not happy. We know something's wrong. So we come in and we know the individual words, but we can't comprehend these elaborate sentences. And it's a beautiful, beautiful book. So the idea of the mind being, our mind is our problem. And this is the tricky thing for people who are new to the course. We're used to thinking our way out of things and going over and over and over and over things in our minds. But the course is offering you a teaching that's going to bring you a new experience. So the lessons of the course are going to shift your mind a little bit and it's going to give you a new experience. More lessons, shift your mind a little bit, going to give you a new experience. And you're going to start to realize, oh, my mind is really chaotic. It has really hateful thoughts in it sometimes, but I'm starting to feel better. I'm starting to see more clearly. So it's this very incremental thing. And when you're suffering, it's always your own mind that's doing it. Someone says something to you. They shouldn't have said that. That's rude. That hurt my feelings. All they did was say words. They made sounds. They made sounds. That's all they did. They're a neutral thing making sounds. It's your own perception that turns it into an insult that makes you suffer. And this is the whole victim of the world thing. When you begin, that's how it is for everybody. The bad things are out there. I'm innocent. I'm a good person. Why is this happening? But as you evolve through the course and you slowly shift the way your mind works by listening to Jesus' teachings, you raise yourself up above the battleground where all of the fighting is and all of the negativity is. And you begin to have this experience of, oh, I'm the problem. And at some point in everybody's journey with the course, you're like, oh, I'm the problem. And then you become even more teachable, more willing, right? Because you're like, oh, I see my problems starting to fade away or coming to a new understanding with them. And you see you have a choice in how you react. And you start to think, oh, if in a year I'm suffering this much less, what's in 2 years? What's in 3 years? And over the 12 years that I did the course, and the thing that has motivated me is this: people don't know that they don't need to suffer. Very simple. Nobody knows they don't need to suffer. We haven't been taught. And so that's where I got my, if you want to call it courage from, is in the 12 years, my suffering went down so much and my understanding went up so much. I was like, everyone needs to know this. And still, I didn't really know how many people were reading the course. I'd never really researched it. I kind of did it by myself with Jesus' help, of course. But I think on some level they wanted me to have this really pure experience. So I was not influenced. I wasn't influenced by anyone.
I'd like to talk to the people that never came across this book.
Mhm.
You can see it's very thick, so you're probably thinking, what? Somebody has to read for 25 times to get something out of it? Or you're going to spend like the whole year, 365 days doing the lessons? When I heard that, I thought, I'm going to finish in 6 months because I'm a fast learner. That's what my ego thought.
That's called spiritual ego. Yeah.
And then I started. It's not that you want to wait for the whole year to get the benefits of the book.
No, it starts immediately.
Actually, it's immediately.
Yeah,
Immediately
it's
you're gonna
immediate.
see the shift. But I finished the first year, the lessons, and then I just was inspired to do in Portuguese with the translations of the book A Year of Forgiveness. And then I did in Spanish, and I never started doing. And every time you do, you get something else.
Mhm.
Because your mind is always evolving and opening. And
Mhm.
it's like that thought. More you know that there is
You
something
don't
that you
know.
don't
Yeah.
know, that you need to know still.
Yeah.
So you can start it today. You don't worry about finish. Just
I
go
tell
with
people, I do tell people, it's like if you look at the Bible, you don't look at the Bible and think I have to read it all and I have to finish it all and I have to understand it. It's a text that you would have in your house and you would study all the time if you're into the Bible. So I tell people that, treat the course like the Bible. It's a difficult text. It's very complex. And as you evolve, the book evolves with you because the first time I read it, I probably understood 10% of it. And I'm a very good reader. I learn very quickly, but I was like, I've never read a book that I can't understand. What is going on? It was very confusing.
It's interesting that we don't understand, but something inside us in our soul completely resonate with everything.
Yes.
And
Well,
as
yeah, I didn't read anything else for 4 years. And I do want to mention this because I missed some very big concepts in the book until I read The Disappearance of the Universe. So there's a book called The Disappearance of the Universe by Gary Renard. And if anyone is listening who's never looked at the course, read The Disappearance of the Universe first because it's much easier. You can read all my books too. They're much easier. um, and they convey the principles of the course in very simple language, but you do still need to do the course. These other books are not replacements for the course. The power of the course is in the mind training and the practice and the repetition. Just like when you were in school, well, how did they teach you your math? Once two is two, two twos are four, like you have to, and then they'd make you recite it over and over again, right? And that's how we learned our times tables is repetition. But I would recommend reading The Disappearance of the Universe and reading some of my books because they're very easy to read and they're very easy to understand. And all of the principles of the course are introduced in more ordinary language. And that's one of the things that I feel is the teaching that Jesus is doing through me, Jesus and Ananda is doing through me, they're to help facilitate the understanding of the course. They're like a bridge between the ordinary person. And if you think about the course, it's the true teachings of Jesus with no interference. So
yes,
here you are, an ordinary person with your big, strong ego, and you've got your guilt and your shame and your happiness and your sadness and your job, and you've got all these ordinary human things. And the Course is the ultimate. It's the ultimate teaching. So these other books are like stepping stones, introducing the ideas, bringing new concepts to you in a way that's manageable. And so they are a great bridge, if you will, from your ordinary life to studying the Course full time, which is, I think, where most people will end up.
Ina, would you like to tell us how the channeling start very quick, and then we go to your work so people
Yes.
know a little bit more?
So one day I laid down. This is when I had been doing the very intense forgiveness practice around my sister. I laid down for a nap, and this ball of energy about this big appeared at the bottom of my back. And it was this pulsating big ball of energy, and it made me go like this. And I was laying down, but I had been reading a lot of books about Tantra and Kundalini that 6 months. Synchronously, I had been put in a house that had a library about Tantra and Kundalini. So I knew what this was. I did not resist it. So this ball moved up my back. My body began to move spontaneously. I was in a state of absolute ecstasy. And it took about 20 minutes for this ball to move up my back all the time. My body was moving. I was doing mudras, yoga mudras. It was very strange. If somebody had seen me from the outside, they would have thought I was having a fit of some kind. It burst out the top of my head, and I had a full body orgasm. Then the ball went to the bottom of my back again. And this happened 3 times. It took about an hour and a half. And that was my introduction to, I didn't know what, but I knew I was having a Kundalini awakening. And so I surrendered to it. So this happened every time I laid down for 3 weeks. I was in a state of heightened consciousness, complete ecstasy. There were no words being spoken at this point. But I knew, I could tell when the ball would go up my back, something was surveying my body. I could feel as if I was being scanned. It was almost like they were reading my nervous system, my muscles, everything. So they were getting to know everything about me. And it was just this crazy experience. So for 3.5 weeks, I knew a channeler on the island I live on now, and I contacted her. I told her what was happening, and she said, I'm having an automatic writing workshop. Come over and we'll see if we can find out who this is. And I said, I don't have any money. She said, that's okay. I'll give it to you for free. So I drove over. I had this beautiful convertible Jeep at the time. So the roof was off. It was summertime. It was beautiful. I was in this, you know, that feeling right before you have an orgasm? I was like that 24/7 for 3.5 weeks. It was unbelievable. Very difficult to live that way. So anyway, I arrived at this place and we did the automatic writing the first evening. We had our candles and our writing books, and my hand started to move, and I was like, oh, it looked like scribbles, and then it looked more like handwriting that you couldn't read. And then I just started writing the word Ananda, 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 pages and pages and pages for an hour. Ananda, Ananda, Ananda. Well, Ananda means bliss in Sanskrit. That's what Ananda means. It's our natural state of consciousness, Ananda. So that oneness is Ananda. And then that evening we said, what is Ananda? None of us knew then. And someone said, oh, that was Buddha's favorite student, was called Ananda. And I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. Everyone went to bed, and I had a feeling someone wants to say something. Someone wants to say something. So I was by myself in the kitchen counter. Everyone had rooms in the retreat house, and they started to write. And they said, we are Ananda. We are your guides and teachers. We're going to write books through you. And they also wrote that I had been a goat herder during Jesus' lifetime, and that I would follow Jesus with my goats. And at nighttime, Jesus and I would sit around the fire and he would teach me. So that's where my connection with Jesus is from that lifetime. And they didn't tell me in the beginning that I would channel him. They said if they had told me, I wouldn't have done it. They had to spend a year channeling as Ananda for me to prep for me to do that. And so I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay. And so they started longhand writing my first book, Making Love to God. But they would write so quickly, I knew what they were saying when I was writing it, but afterwards, I couldn't read it. And then one day I was on my laptop and I get a certain feeling when they're around. And I was like, oh, maybe they want to type. And they started typing. So then I started typing the book. And so they wrote Making Love to. So in that first flush of communication, they would longhand write, then they were typing. And then about 3 months in, and they were giving me lots of personal advice. They told me to cut my food intake in half, to slow down, to drink more water. There were shows I was watching on TV they didn't want me to watch. I used to love watching Dexter. It's about a serial killer. And they wouldn't let me watch that movie. And I remember I had a couple of fights with them where they were trying to tell me what to do and I was arguing with them. But I was surrendered. I knew what was happening. Channeling had always been my passion. I knew the course was channeled. I knew this was like an unbelievable thing. And then about 3 months in, they said, we're going to prepare you to speak for us. And so I would lay down for an hour in the middle of the day and they would do energy work on me. So they would use my hands and they'd be doing energy work, working with my aura. I had no idea if they would just use me to do work on me. And then one day, all of this energy built around my throat and they started to speak. And the first thing they did was give a lecture on unconditional love. But they sounded very computer-like in the beginning. They didn't sound like me. They were just getting used to using my voice. And so I would wander around my apartment channeling whatever they wanted to channel. I'd go to the beach and they'd channel about light. They'd channel about the waves. They would just channel all the time, just getting me used to it and getting used to my body, because obviously they're using my body. So that was the summer of 2012. I spent 3 months in heaven.
What an amazing experience.
Yeah, it was
I would
incredible.
like to talk about automatic writing because I learned automatic writing with you also
Oh, okay.
in your workshop.
Yes.
And automatic writing is the least intimidating of the psychic abilities.
Yeah.
And absolutely any human being can develop. And I'll share my screen quick. Today, I'm having a workshop. Let me just move this way. Let me stop sharing. I'm going to have a workshop to teach people how to automatic writing. I've been doing that for a while successfully. So if any one of you want to join, you're going to see that's very symbolic price that I'm asking for. So you're welcome. The link is in the description. Tina, let's talk a little bit about your work. I already have here let me just move this way. I have your website and you have wrote many, many books.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Channeled books.
Yeah, channeled books that I read all of them. And I'm starting to translate all of them to Portuguese.
Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you for doing that. It's an amazing inspiration that you've had to bring it to your native language speakers, because that's not something I can do. So Jesus is inspiring, as we know, many people to do translations.
Yes, we are 9 at this moment, and we are covering 10 languages.
Yes, it's incredible. And this is the thing that I want to remind people of who are either just beginning, where I was, 23 years ago, not in a good place in my life, struggling with all of these internal problems. or if you're a year or two into the course, I had no idea that this was coming. I had no idea that this was coming. All I did was study the course because it made my life better. It made me suffer less, and I could see over time that it was just improving everything. And in the scheme of things, relatively quickly, to go from depression, guilt, isolation to a Kundalini awakening in 12 years is not that long. To go from hell to heaven in 12 years is not that long. It seems long to the ego. The ego says 12 years too long, not doing it. One day at a time. It's very much like that. Just do it one day at a time, because guess what? The 12 years is going to go by whether you're doing this or not. And 12 years with Jesus is way easier than 12 years with the ego in charge. So you are going to see massive improvements. I suggest people just do 30 days. Don't question for 30 days. Just do the lessons for 30 days, and you will feel that something is shifting. You'll have prophetic dreams. You'll have out-of-body experiences. And Jesus will start to work with you one-on-one. As soon as you pick his book up, he's going to work with you. He will also work with you if you're reading the Jesus, My Autobiography book. We're studying this in the book club on my membership platform right now. And last night he said, take that book with you wherever you go, and I will be there with you. So bring the course, bring Jesus, My Autobiography, bring A Year of Forgiveness. He will begin to work with you one-on-one with these books.
Yes, and I have all of them here with me. Let's just talk a little bit about everything that you have, and then I'll have a question for Jesus.
Okay.
So, as we mentioned, Tina has a lot of YouTube videos in YouTube. But besides that, you can go by playlist. There is the lessons of A Course in Miracle that she did in 2019. That was the first year I did all the 365 lessons. I didn't miss one day. And if you are like me, that you're going to finish all the free videos and say you want more. So
Right.
we invite
So
you to be part of the Mighty Network.
Yes. In 2020, I was out walking my dog, and I met a guy who was walking his dog, and turned out he did some meditation tapes and stuff, but he was a marketer. And he said, "What do you do?" And I said, "Well, I channel Jesus." He goes, "Oh, cool. Have you got a channel or something?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I've got a YouTube channel." And he met me the next day. He said, "I've never seen anyone with so much work. Like, do you have your own platform? Do you have a membership or anything?" And I said, "No." He goes, "That's the most impressive amount of work I've ever seen." He said, "I can help you set up your own membership." And I said, "Okay." And that was the beginning of the Mighty Network. So it took them 3 or 4 months to set it up, and we launched it. We launched it right when COVID hit. So it was perfect because everybody was online, everybody was struggling. What the heck is going on? And so on Mighty Networks, it has a feed like Facebook. It has a library of over 1,000 videos. So we have hundreds of videos that are not on YouTube. And I channel 3 live streams a month. We do 2 90-minute sessions, and then we're also doing a book club. And this month we're doing, this 3 months, we're doing Jesus, My Autobiography. So you have the opportunity for a Q&A. You have the opportunity to be first on my retreats, because I run a lot of retreats around the world. Pardon?
Do you have any coming up soon?
Yes, we have one in 2 months on Salt Spring Island, where I live, and it's at a place called Stoll Lake Farm. It's a beautiful farm. All of the on-site places are filled, but we have quite a few off-site visitors, so you would stay somewhere else and come for the day's activities. We have morning yoga, prayer circle. I channel Then we have all the meals. We have Carol Morgan channeling Zena Allen. We have sound baths. It's an amazing 4 days, and that's coming up July 25th to 29th. So if you go to channelingjesus.com, it's on the homepage there, and you can look at all of the details. And my biggest news really is I'm actually looking to buy a small retreat center this summer. So I'm selling my personal home and I'm looking to buy a small retreat center. So I will be running my own retreats. And so that's a big, big step for me. That's something I never dreamt I'd be able to do. But the reason we have so many videos on YouTube is I've been poor. I've had no money. I could never do retreats. I could never do these kinds of things. And so there are so many videos on YouTube for free. You don't have to spend any money if you don't have it or you don't want to. This is not about making money per se, but often what happens is, like with you, Eleanor, you go through all the videos and then you want more. And so the membership and the retreats are for people who want more. And we've had marriages come out of our retreats. We've had lifelong friendships come out of our retreats. But when you get to hang out with 10, 20, 30, 40 people who are studying the same thing that you are, it's amazing. The conversations, the relationships, it's just people just love them. So if you do have the ability to come, Salt Spring is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to do that. We will be running some more international ones, but my business manager and I were both guided this year not to travel. So we're not scared. We're just listening to guidance. So we were both guided not to travel this year so that we could focus actually on our own personal lives. We both have a lot of things happening in our personal lives. And as you know, if you've been doing spiritual work, it takes a lot of energy to do this. And sometimes you can't be doing other things. We're just focusing on retooling and reinventing ourselves this year. So we will be having some more international retreats next year, but most of them fill up from our membership. So if you are really interested in the retreats, it's good to give us your email. You don't have to join the membership, but if we have your email, we can let you know that a retreat is coming up.
But this one, if you go to channelingjesus.com, that's in the description, you should be able to register from there.
Yeah, you can register, find out all the costs and all of that sort of thing. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And we are almost on time.
I know. It goes quickly, doesn't it?
Question for Jesus.
Yes, sure.
I know he doesn't give a quick answer, but
well, we can do another hour, Eleanor, because I'm sure people will have questions and you've got more questions. I'm happy to do another interview at some point if you're interested.
So let's keep the question for today. Can I still ask Jesus a question today, or
yeah, we've got time. Do you want to unshare your screen? I'm still seeing the.
Oh, okay. Let me stop sharing.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding me.
It's okay.
Okay. So we are in the end of a spiritual season.
Sorry, your screen hasn't stopped sharing. You might want to click it again.
Let me do something here.
Well, I guess it's advertising my YouTube channel, so at least it's a good screen.
It's so funny. I did something here that I don't know how to remove now. Because the bottom came up. Let me see if I can do this. Okay, I'm sharing the screen, but now I'm sharing the Zoom.
Okay, well, it's just there for everyone to see. Go to Channeling Jesus and Ananda on YouTube and subscribe and look at those videos. There's endless information there.
I think we're gonna have to go with it because I did something that I don't know how to undo.
Okay, no worries.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's interesting that we always learn about technology. It's our
yes, it can be a bit stressful at times, that's for sure.
So sorry, you guys just have to concentrate in our voices.
Yeah, yeah.
So my question is, we are in the end of a spiritual season, and all the systems will crumble. Health system, educational, financial, and organized relations also will crumble. And I think the organized relation is the one that's bring me more concern, because it's really people look out for their religious leader like an example, and to really identify themselves and move forward. And when they realize that those relations didn't have their best interest, and many of those figures that they have as an idol were not really what they supposed to be or they thought they were, people go crazy. What I usually try to tell people is that connection with your divine that you get through that person has nothing to do with what that person does or doesn't do. So that connection is for you to keep, but I would like to have Jesus talking about the crumbling of the organized relation.
Okay.
And
Okay.
what people can do after they really feel lost.
Okay, let's see what he says. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. You have a connection with the divine every single second of every day. It is your guidance system. Your guidance system lets you know how you're feeling. Your guidance system says, yes, I want to go to dinner with that person, or no, I don't want to go to dinner with that person. People think they don't have guidance. You have guidance all the time. You have not been allowed to come down into separation without guidance. What your religious structures have taught you is you don't have guidance. You need us to guide you. So what we want to remind you of at the end of this spiritual season is that the ascension is evolution. So humanity is evolving out of separation into connection, into a relationship with themselves and their inner guidance, which is given to you by the divine. God is not separate from you. God is within you. God is you in the sense that you are made in God's image. You are creative. You are loving. You are the most wonderful beings. And why do you think so much effort is put into dumbing you down? Why is so much effort put into entertaining you, distracting you? Because you have within you everything you need. The kingdom of heaven is within you. It is not outside of you, and you do not access it through anybody else. If you have a teacher such as this being is offering a ministry that you can follow, it is teaching you how to know thyself. It is teaching you how to interpret your guidance system. It is teaching you what is important, how to become happier, how to become more peaceful. It is not about judging you. It is not about scaring you with threats of fire and brimstone. We are telling you, if your mind is untrained, you are going to struggle because your mind is being trained by the system. You want to own your own mind. You want to train your own mind because that is how you create on this plane. You create through your own desires, through your own emotion, through your own focus. But most people hand that job off to some form of authority, whether it be religion, government, doctor, whatever. You've had some very interesting experiences in the last few years of what can happen when you just do as you are told. So this is part of the ascension. This is part of the evolution. And for those beings that are deeply indoctrinated into religious structures, they are going to have a more difficult time than those who are less indoctrinated into religious structures, but it is not anyone's job to worry about the entire world. Your job is to do your practice, because your practice will affect your world. Every person, place, thing, and experience that you are having is going to be affected by your practice. A Course in Miracles was brought through for this time because it was known in advance that it would be your minds that would be weaponized. Your minds are weaponized by constant commercials about how beautiful you should be. Your minds are weaponized by violent movies, by violent television shows that focus on death and destruction and car accidents. Your minds are weaponized by horror movies that make you afraid of spirit. Your minds are being weaponized against you. And this is why people are afraid of communication with spirit, because for centuries they have been forbidden. In fact, for centuries, you would be killed if you communicated with spirit. You are still in a recovery phase from those terrible, terrible practices of the Catholic Church. You do not have to figure this all out. But if this message has come to you, if you are listening to this, if you find A Course in Miracles on your bookshelf or a friend gives it to you, that is a sign that now is the time. So if you are hearing these words, now is the time to begin the course, to double down on your practice, to read the books that this being has penned. They have all been brought through her to make the transition from ego to spirit less bumpy. You are exactly where you need to be, but we want to remind you everyone else is exactly where they need to be too. If they have come to the end of their spiritual season and they are encased in ignorance or smallness or fear, they have to be given the opportunity to break free at the end of the spiritual season. Do not underestimate the power of the ascension process, and do not take onto your shoulders, dear one, responsibility for everybody else. Do your practice, share what you are inspired to share, extend the love that you have for humanity through the offerings that you have, and you will change many minds indeed. But it is not your responsibility to save the world. Remember, the world is illusory. Death is an illusion. You are all sacred spiritual beings who exist forever and ever. Amen. Do not believe the lies of the ego that the world is going to collapse in disaster. Understand that for decades, A Course in Miracles has been working on the minds of many people who have become teachers, and there are millions and millions of people around the world teaching these teachings, and they will be ready, willing, and able when these huge shifts on your planet take place. Everyone has a guide and teacher. Everyone has communion with spirit. Everybody knows how they feel. They have been conditioned out of it. And so this is a reclamation, if you will. The end of a spiritual season is a reclamation of your true nature. Humans are beautiful beings who are made from love for love, and they are guided by love. And that will win out in the end. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and I will speak to you again soon.
Wow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know you have an appointment, so I'm not going to hold you too long.
Yes, I do have an appointment.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Tina, for coming. And I
Okay.
look forward to have you back.
Okay.
I saw some questions, but thank you everyone that's watching. Hit the subscribe button if you so wish. And next time, Tina will come and will graciously answer some of your questions.
Yeah.
Today was more for us, each one of us, learn more about Tina's life, Tina's work, and this
Yeah.
beautiful human being that's really dedicating her life to help us feel better. That's what we are here for. Learn how to have a happy dream, that sacrifice is not necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. And lucky for us, Jesus is a prolific producer of information. So do go watch some videos and put judgment aside for now. I know that channeling Jesus is a big thing to believe in. Trust me, when it first happened to me, I was not that excited about it because I was scared of what would happen to me. But nothing bad has happened to me. Only good things have come from his teachings. And that's what you can count on, is if you listen to them, you can hear the love in his voice. You can hear the care he has for us. And he wants us to understand how this all functions and how the world functions. And it makes life so much easier. The ego in control is chaotic. Jesus in control is amazing. So be brave and listen to a few videos, and you'll find yourself feeling a little bit better and curious, perhaps, about the rest of the work. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone that's watched, and hope to see you again for the next podcast. And you have a chance to ask some questions to Tina. Thank you, love and light to all. I just ended the
Okay.